If you ever get offered a job at Willow Oaks Apartments, say no. Burn the contract. Run. The tenants aren't what they seem. And the rules they make you follow? They aren't for safety. They're for containment. Asterisk the apartment complex stands. Like a tumor at the edge of town. 57 units. 3 floors. 1 winding, cracked asphalt driveway. People whisper about it in the bars down the road. They say if you drive past it at night, you see things in the windows. Things that don't belong to the tenants. Things that blink out of existence when headlights sweep across them. I didn't believe any of it when I first took the job. $2,000 per week. Free rent. Quiet nights. All I had to do was stay awake from 8 p.m. to 6 a.m., monitor the cameras, file maintenance reports, and, of course, follow the rules. Rules that were printed in bold red ink and nailed to the wall of the front office, right beside a photograph of the original supervisor. His face was burned out of the image. The rules of Willow Oaks. Night supervisor copy. Begin your shift at exactly 8 p.m. Not a minute earlier. Not a second later. Do not leave the main office unless absolutely necessary. At 9:17 p.m., room 304 will knock on the front door. Do not answer. At 10 p.m., turn off all hallway lights, even if tenants complain. Check camera 6 every hour. If it's static, do not look away. If a tenant asks for salt, give it. Don't ask questions. Under no circumstances should you approach the elevator between 3 o'clock and 3:33 a.m. If you hear whispering in the vents, turn on the office radio and increase the volume to drown it out. When the sun rises, you must leave through the back alley. Never use the main entrance after dawn. If you survive until morning, burn this paper and rewrite it. Rules change nightly. I laughed when I read them. Cute gimmick, I muttered, sipping gas station coffee while signing my contract. Not a gimmick. The manager, an older woman with bloodshot eyes and a voice like gravel, said quietly. Those rules are why the tenants are still alive. And you, if you're lucky, will be too. She didn't shake my hand. She didn't smile. She just handed me a rusted key with the number 13 on it and walked out. I should have walked away then. But I was broke, in debt, and desperate. And Willow Oaks needed a night supervisor. 8:00 p.m. First shift begins the moment I unlocked the front office door. The hallway lights behind me flickered. Inside, the air was cold, too cold for June, and smelled faintly of metal and mold. The security room was small. 1 desk, 7 monitors. Each screen fed from a different hallway camera. I saw flickering lights, roaches skittering across the linoleum, a tenant dragging a garbage bag that looked a little too full. There was an old, leather-bound logbook on the desk. The last entry, written in jagged script, read, "Do not look." At camera 6 during the knocking. What the hell was this place? 9:17 p.m. The knocking begins. 3 knocks. Sharp. Slowed. I froze in my chair. The front door, thick glass with a metal frame, rattled slightly. I could see a shadow. A silhouette of a man, maybe 6 feet tall. Motionless. Not shifting weight. Not breathing. Just standing there. My hand hovered over the intercom button. But Rule 3 flashed in my mind. Do not answer. I obeyed. The knocking came again. Then again. And again. I glanced at camera 6. Static. White, hissing static. It had been showing a quiet stairwell just moments ago. Now it was fuzzing with violent, screeching distortion. I stared at it. My eyes refused to blink. Something was moving in the static. A shape. Crawling. Backward. Upside down. And then, just for a split second, it looked directly at me. Its eyes were hollow. Its mouth stretched open far too wide, exposing rows and rows of teeth. And its neck bent like a question mark. I screamed and fell out of my chair. By the time I scrambled back up, the static was gone. Camera 6 showed the stairwell again. Empty. Silent. The door had stopped knocking. 10:00 p.m. Lights out. The hallway lights were automated, but I had been instructed to manually override them at exactly 10:00 p.m. I flipped the switch. Darkness poured into the complex like ink. Seconds later, the monitors began to glitch. Camera 3 flickered. I saw a tenant stepping out into the hallway, but he wasn't walking. He was gliding, floating inches above the floor. Eyes rolled back, mouth open. Camera 1. A figure darted past the lens, too fast for any human to move. Camera 5. Every door on the second floor opened simultaneously, but no one stepped out. And camera 6. Back to static. This time, it wasn't crawling. It was standing, still, holding something in its hands. The IT looked like a severed ARM.my intercom crackled. Salt. A voice hissed that I jumped. A tenant. Probably. One of the few actually still alive in this place. I opened the supply drawer. Sure enough, packets of salt. Dozens of them, all labeled with unit numbers. This one was marked Unit 106. I walked fast. I didn't want to leave the office, but the rules said, if a tenant asks for salt, give it. Don't ask questions. I reached 106. Knocked once. The door opened just a sliver. A pale, wide-eye peeked out. A trembling hand shot forward. Grabbed the salt. Slammed the door. From inside, I heard it whispering. He's coming again. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Midnight. The elevator incident. The building has no fourth floor. But the elevator thinks it does. At midnight, the panel glowed. Floor 4. And the doors opened. All by themselves. I wasn't even near the elevator. I was watching it through the monitor. From inside, a low growling echoed out. And then a foot stepped forward. Not a human foot. Something. Poof. I shut off the feed. 3:00 a.m. Do not approach the elevatory. Heard crying, soft, childlike, coming from the elevator shaft. I covered my ears. But the crying grew louder, more desperate, pleading. I turned on the radio and cranked the volume. Old jazz music flooded the room. But in the rhythm of the trumpet, I could still hear it, just under the melody. Help me. He's eating my face. Please. 5:55 a.m. Dawn approaches. I began packing up early. The back alley. That was the exit. But I made the mistake of peeking at the main entrance. The front lobby was filled with shadows. Every tenant was standing still, faces pressed to the glass, eyes blank, mouths smiling. Each held something in their hands. Salt, a limb, a baby doll, a key, and all of them whispered in perfect unison, "Welcome to Willow Oaks." I ran through the back, never looked back. I barely made it home before passing out from exhaustion. 8:00 p.m. The next night, the contract was binding. I couldn't quit, couldn't leave town, and as night fell again, the rules were back on the wall, but this time, they'd changed. Last night, I survived my first shift at Willow Oaks Apartments. The knocking, the static, the thing in camera 6. But when I returned tonight, the rules had changed. And now, I'm starting to realize, these tenants aren't residents. They're inmates in a building that breathes. And someone, or something, is trying to break them free. The second night started before I even arrived. I was getting dressed, buttoning up my faded security uniform, when I heard it. A knock at my front door, not my office door. My house. 3. Slow knocks. 9:17 p.m. exactly. My blood turned cold. I stood completely still, staring at the door from across the living room. No one else should know that time. That pattern. I crept forward, careful not to make a sound. Peered through the peephole. Nothing. Just the empty porch. No car. No shadow. Except, there was a piece of paper pinned to the door with a rusted nail. It was a new rules sheet. Not typed this time. Handwritten in thick, tar-like ink. Willow Oaks Night Supervisor Protocol. Night 2. Do not enter Unit 407. It was never supposed to exist. Camera 6 must now be watched from 3:30 to 3:33 a.m. exactly. No more, no less. If any tenant speaks, your full name, hang up the intercom immediately. Do not accept deliveries tonight. The building is not expecting any. A woman in black will knock at 2:02 a.m. Do not speak. Do not move. If the fire alarm sounds, but you see no fire, run to the elevator. Not away. And whatever you do, if you hear someone crying from Unit 107, burn the carpet outside their door. When I got back to the building that night, I noticed the front lawn was different. The grass had turned black, brittle, like it had been singed by lightning. Every single light inside the apartment tower was off. Not flickering, just dark, like the entire structure had been drained of power. And yet, as I stepped into the office, all the monitors were running, bright, almost too bright. Camera 6 showed an empty stairwell. But now, there was a new dark spot in the corner of the screen. Not a shadow, more like a hole in reality. It throbbed like a heartbeat. I didn't want to look at it yet. I needed to focus. Stick to the rules. Survive. 9:00 p.m. The intercom call. The buzzer rang. I picked up the line. Willow Oaks Night Desk. Static. Then a voice. James Allen Crowley. It whispered my full name. I dropped the phone like it had electrocuted me. It was Rule 3. If any tenant speaks your full name, hang up the intercom immediately. I stared at the receiver, my heart pounding in my chest like a jackhammer. Then the phone rang again. Same voice. James. James. Only this time, it sounded like my mother's voice. But my mother had been dead for 4 years. 10:37 p.m. Unit 407, I didn't go looking for it. But when I blinked at the monitors, camera 4, a hallway that previously ended in a brick wall, now showed a door. Unit 407, there shouldn't be a Unit 407. The entire third floor ends at 306. But this door was tall. Too tall. Painted crimson. Marked with strange carvings that looked like something between a circuit diagram and a religious sigil. And it was open. Inside, a red glow. Pulsing. I felt it calling to me. I stood up. Walked to the hallway. Climbed the stairs. I don't remember unlocking the door. All I remember is the sound, like teeth grinding inside a meat grinder, and the smell, iron, rot, smoke. Inside 407, I saw rows of chairs, like a church. But instead of a pulpit, there was a gaping hole in the wall, breathing. And in every chair sat something wearing skin that didn't fit. They turned to me, slowly, in unison, and they spoke. We were the first. The experiment failed, but we remain. My knees buckled. I collapsed, scrambling backward, out the door. The moment I crossed the threshold, the hallway was empty again. The door to 407? Gone. 2:02 a.m. The woman in black sheet came exactly on time. Knocking. Soft. Rhythmic. I didn't move. Didn't breathe. I had turned off the lights in the office. Outside the glass door, she stood. Thin. Tall. Dressed in a black morning gown. Her eyes glowed white. No pupils. Just fog. She didn't speak. She just grinned and gently tapped the glass again and again. I stayed still. Statue still. And then she turned her head upside down, like it was on a loose hinge, and walked away backwards. 3:30. 3:33 a.m. Watch camera 6. This was the new rule. 3 minutes. Camera 6. At the moment I clicked on it, the screen turned blood red. I saw myself sitting in the office, except the other me had no face, just a flat, featureless stretch of skin. It looked at the screen, raised one finger, pointed at me, and began peeling the skin off its own chest, underneath wires, tubes, spiders. I screamed. But I couldn't look away. If I looked away, I knew it would get freed. At 3:33, the feed cut out. And in my reflection on the blank monitor, I saw my own face was smiling. But I wasn't. 5:00 a.m. The carpet at 107, the whispering started again. A child's voice, crying, pleading, from Unit 107. But this time, it was chanting, repeating the same phrase. He's not who he says he is. He's not who he says he is. Rule 7. Burn the carpet outside 107. I grabbed the emergency lighter and rushed down. The hallway was stretching. I swear it was longer than before. I reached the door. The crying stopped. I knelt, lit the carpet. It screamed. Not the tenant. Not the child. The building. The walls trembled. The lights exploded. And from under the burning carpet, I saw a mouth. Embedded in the floor. It hissed. Too late. 6 a.m. The replacements. As I ran for the back alley, I saw them. 4 figures, standing perfectly still in the courtyard, all dressed in night supervisor uniforms, all with my face, but their eyes were wrong. Hollow, like windows looking into hell. They watched me run, and one of them raised a hand, slowly waving goodbye. I made it out alive. Again, but barely. And when I checked my phone the next morning, there was a message. No number, no origin, just one line. Tomorrow, you must take your replacement test. Failure to comply will result in transfer. My second night at Willow Oaks revealed something terrifying. There is no safety in following the rules, only delayed punishment. Now, I've been chosen for the replacement test, and I've begun to realize I'm not just working night shift anymore. I'm being rewritten, molecule by molecule, by something that lives inside the walls. 7:44 p.m. The letter it arrived at my front door again. This time not nailed, just resting gently on the welcome mat, as if someone had tucked it in like a sleeping child. A pale envelope. No name, no return address. Inside, A note written in perfect calligraphy. Notice of evaluation. Night Supervisor. Number 13. Date. Tonight time. 3 to 3:33 a.m. Dress code. Uniform. Barefoot requirements. Full compliance. No eye contact with mirror reflections. Failure to pass the test will result in replacement. And beneath that letter was a photograph. It was me, standing outside Unit 407. But I hadn't returned to that hallway. Not since the first night. Still, there I was, frozen in grainy black and white. Except in the photo, my eyes were gone. Just hollow sockets, dripping something thick and dark that I didn't eat that day. Couldn't. My stomach twisted itself into knots. And at 7:55 p.m., 5 minutes before my shift, a new rule sheet was taped to the office door, without a sound that I didn't see who placed it. No footsteps, no shadow, just it was there. Willow Oaks, Night 3, Evaluation Protocol. Begin barefoot. You must feel the floor. The building likes it better that way. At 9:13 p.m., Camera 6 will show your replacement. Do not react. Do not blink. From 12 to 1 a.m., no lights allowed. Even for monitors. Turn everything off. You will be summoned to room beneath Unit 407. Do not speak until spoken to. During the replacement test, if you hear your own voice coming from the PA system, scream until it stops. Once the test concludes, you will either be A. Reinstated, B. Rewritten, C. Forgotten. Do not ask what happened to the last supervisor. You were not meant to remember him. 9:13 p.m. The face in Camera 6. I stared at the screen. Camera 6 came alive, blinking into clarity after hours of static. And there he was. Me. Or something wearing me. But the skin didn't fit right. Too tight in some places, hanging loose in others. His jaw hung crooked. His fingers were longer, each joint wriggling, like they were still learning how to bend properly. He stared at the camera, then smiled. And in that smile, I saw every one of my worst memories. My mother's funeral, the night I crashed the car and left someone to die. The moment I signed this job contract thinking it would be a fresh start. The screen flickered. When it came back, he was inside the office. But I was still in the office too. I turned around in 01. I turned back. Camera 6. Empty. 12:00 a.m. Total darkness. I shut off the monitors, pulled the breaker, lit a single candle. I had to sit in complete darkness for 1 hour. The walls creaked, breathed, shifted. I heard whispering behind me, to my left, behind the filing cabinet, under the floorboards. You're next. You're next. You're already gone. Then a click. The intercom. My voice came through. James, don't forget what they did to you in room 407. Don't forget who you used to be. Don't forget what's inside the mirror. My hands trembled. Then I screamed. I screamed until my lungs burned. And just like that, the voice stopped. The building fell silent. 3:00 a.m. The floor opened beneath Unit 407. A trapdoor I'd never seen before. I stepped barefoot into the cold black corridor below. It was not a basement. It was a tunnel made of ribs, walls like sinew, floors that pulsed under my feet like veins. At the end of the hallway, a massive room, circular, lined with mirrors, 12 of them, all cracked, all fogged from the inside. Each one showed a version of me. Some were missing skin. One was headless. One stood in fire and didn't burn. In the center, a chair made of bones and copper wire. Saturday, a mechanical voice came through the darkness. Beginning replacement test. Please confirm. Are you human? I swallowed hard. Yes. Wrong answer. The chair injected something into my spine. I screamed. My skin writhed. Another question. Do you remember your first day alive? Yes. I think so. Describe it. I couldn't. All I could see was static. Screaming static in my mind. Suddenly, one of the mirrors exploded. The reflection inside it, my reflection, crawled out. It wasn't me. Not anymore. Not even close. It howled and leapt for my throat. I punched, kicked, thrashed, but the voice called. Again, you must absorb it. I stopped fighting. I let it in. It slammed into my chest like black fire. My heart stopped. My mind opened, and I saw, really saw, the truth. Willow Oaks isn't haunted. It's a prison. A containment structure for broken timelines, for failed realities, for versions of people that were never supposed to exist. And I'm not the original James Crowley, he died years ago, that I'm just the latest version trying to pass as in 0.4:03 a.m. Return I came back up through the trapdoor. The hallway had changed. No lights, just red vines covering every inch of the walls. Tenants peeked through their doors. Some were crying blood. Some were chanting. All were staring at me. They knew that I had passed the test, but I was not the same. Not anymore. 0.5:59 a.m. The morning shift, the sun began to rise. The monitors flickered with new rules. This time, they weren't warnings. They were orders. They read, "You are now part of the structure. Do not fail your tenants. If any attempt escape, you know what to do." I looked at my reflection in the glass. My eyes glowed. Our my smile stretched too far that I am still working at Willow Oaks. But I don't sleep anymore. I don't bleed. I don't dream. Because the real night supervisor died a long time ago. I'm just wearing what's left of him. And tomorrow, a new hire arrives. His name's Trevor. 24. Broke. Desperate. He thinks this is just a job, but I'll be here to greet him. With a smile and a rule sheet written in his own blood. Willow Oaks was never meant to be an apartment building. It was meant to be a prison, a trap for broken souls, dead timelines, and things that should never have existed. Now, I'm no longer the man who applied for this job. I'm what remains after the test. And tonight, a new night supervisor begins his first shift. I will be his mentor, his reflection, his replacement. When the time comes 0.7:00 p.m., the arrival of Trevor. Trevor stepped out of his rusted 2011 Corolla wearing a wrinkled polo shirt, cheap khakis, and a confused smile. He looked exactly like I had on my first day. Lost, broke, hopeful. He knocked on the office door with a laminated badge in hand. The photo on it was already fading. When I opened the door, he flinched. Hi. I'm here for the night supervisor position." I nodded. "You're in the right place." He stepped in, looked around at the monitors, the buzzing lights, the wall covered in outdated photos and burnt-out faces. "You the guy I'm replacing?" he asked casually. I smiled. "Something like that." 7:30 p.m. Orientation. I gave him the speech, the same one the last man gave me. "Don't leave the office. Don't question the rules. Don't talk to the woman in black." He laughed at first, thought I was joking, thought this was part of some weird Kentucky hazing ritual. Then he saw the rules sheet, printed in black ink on yellowed, blistering parchment. This time, the rules weren't the same. Willow Oaks Night Supervisor Rules. Night 1. Trevor Dune Edition. Speak to your reflection before starting your shift. If it speaks back, proceed. At 9 p.m., take the elevator to the 4th floor. Yes, we know it doesn't exist. Do it anyway. When you hear the crying child in the vents, hum a lullaby, but not one your mother taught you. If the intercom rings and no one is speaking, unplug it and hide under the desk. At 2:17 a.m., a version of you will ask to be let inside. Do not let him in. He failed. Between 3 o'clock and 3:33 a.m., stay out of all mirrors. They are no longer showing your reflection. Once the sun rises, you will know if you passed. If the building allows you to leave, walk backward out the alley. Do not turn around. Trevor stared at the list. This is some initiation thing, right? I didn't answer. I just handed him the office keys and backed into the shadows. 8:45 p.m. Observation begins. I watched from inside the monitors that I no longer needed a body. Not fully. Willow Oaks had absorbed me, fed on me. Now I was part of the system, alive inside the wiring, the ventilation, the buzzing fluorescent hum. Trevor stared at the cameras, adjusting his seat. Drinking cheap energy drinks that he hadn't noticed the lights were already flickering in a language only the building understood. 9:00 p.m. Elevator to the 4th floor. To his credit, Trevor followed Rule 2. He pressed the elevator button and watched in horror as it glitched past floor 3 and blinked. For the doors opened. Inside, the light was red. The walls were pulsing, but he stepped in. Good that I needed him to pass or fail spectacularly. The 4th floor was long. Wrong. The ceiling was too low, the air too thick, and at the end of the hallway, a nursery, painted blue and pink. Cribs lining the walls. No babies, just small burlap sacks tied shut and gently moving. He approached one. Opened it. Inside, a tooth. Still bleeding. Still twitching. Then another bag. A tiny, severed hand. Then a third. This one had an eye. Wide open. And looking at him, Trevor screamed and ran. But the hallway wouldn't let him leave. Until finally, the wall split open with a sound like cracking bone and expelled him back into the elevator point 10:30 p.m. The intercom rings, he was still shaking. When the office phone rang, he picked up. Hello. No answer. Then, breathing, not human. Wet. Labored that he slowly set the phone down and followed the rule, unplugging it. But the phone kept ringing. Even unplugged, then the ceiling vent opened. And something fell out. A second intercom, covered in hair. Its speaker was a mouth. It whispered, "You're not real, Trevor. You're not the first. You're not even the fifth." Trevor threw it into the trash and lit it on fire with the emergency matches. Smart. The building hissed in pain. 2:17 a.m. Himself at the door, just like the rules said. He knocked. Trevor was at the front glass, except his face was stretched, like someone tried to press a mask of Trevor's face over a mannequin. His hands were claws. Fingernails melted. He grinned. "Hey man, it's me. You locked me out, haha. Can you open the door?" Trevor backed away. Silent. The copy started crying. "Please man. It hurts out here. I'm scared." Then screaming. Then clawing at the glass. Then nothing. The figure turned to mist and vanished. 3:00. 3:33 a.m. Mirror time. This was always the hardest part. He tried to avoid them. But the building shifted. Corridors rerouted. He was forced to pass the bathroom mirror on the second floor. And when he did, his reflection grabbed him, dragged him in. I watched through the monitor. Camera 6, of course. Inside the mirror, time bled backward. He saw himself as a child, drawing Willow Oaks on the wall in red crayon. He saw his own death in a mirror car crash. And he saw me, staring at him from behind the reflection. "You're not here to do the job, Trevor. You're here to be measured, to be cut to fit the mold. Only one of us walks out." He screamed. And somehow he punched his way free from the glass, blood pouring from his fists. And I felt it. The building felt it. Willow Oaks had not seen defiance like that in a long time. 5:59 a.m. Judgment. The sun began to rise. The rules dissolved off the wall, burned away into ash. Trevor stood at the back exit, shaking, waiting. Then, the building opened. The alley door. A voice whispered, "Walk backward. Do not turn around." He obeyed. He walked backward, eyes wide, silent. And as he crossed the threshold, the door slammed, and he collapsed into the morning light. The aftermath I watched from the monitor as he drove away. He wouldn't remember everything. The building would allow that. But at 3:33 a.m. every night for the rest of his life, he'll dream of Unit 407. He'll feel the walls breathing. He'll smell the rust and static. And maybe, one day, he'll come back. Because Willow Oaks never lets go of what it carves. Epilogue. The new posting on my wall now hangs a new rules sheet, freshly written. A new name. I'm the night watchman at Silver Hollow Tunnel in Kentucky. Strange rules must be followed. I smile. Another site. Another structure. Willow Oaks has done its job. It trained me, broke me, rebuilt me, and now I move on. But before I leave, I look at the final photo pinned to the board. The original night supervisor. His face finally visible now. It's mine.